wakimaliza mambo ya fake news na opinion poll ya ukora na headline ya kulipwa, wakuje tukutane na wao katika mambo ya maendeleo ya wananchi.
We are quite used to different reactions from people in both the public and the private sector. So we try to do our work the best we can. We know that no survey is perfect, whether in the crafting of the questions or the way our respondents are selected. We have very high standards which are international, and we try to uphold them.
When you say no survey is perfect, and you mentioned that you had a sample size of about 2,000 people responding to the question that you asked, scientifically speaking, is that sufficient considering there are more than 40 million Kenyans?
Sure. From a research point of view, it would be nice if every time we did one of these surveys we could interview 10,000, because then we could do much more subsample analysis. But the cost would be prohibitive.
Can
where
you
the population
confidently
is
say
small.
that the 2,000 sample that you use is a true reflection of what Kenyans actually think?
Within the margin of error of plus or minus 2%, 2.2, we think it's a true reflection. If we get, say, 17% say this and 31% say that and so on, don't worship the numbers so precisely. There's a range of 2 or 3%. What's most important...
So it may not be a true reflection of what Kenyans
It's not
think.
an exactly 100% true, but we think it's true enough, close enough to the reality, so that we think it tells us the situation.
Who sponsored this particular poll, Tom?
Well, that's a management issue, but I can say that what we have released, because we do have certain clients who load questions, but for everything that we've released so far, this was paid for by the company.
By IPSOS itself.
Yeah.
So there was no external interference.
No.
It was not run by anybody else from outside trying to taint anybody's name in a particular way.
Now, I must say that we're happy, and I think other firms are, if a client comes, whether it's NTV or whether it's whatever political party, to do surveys for them. But my guess is, for clients of that nature, maybe not a news house, they would probably, and we know from the past, they would keep those results confidential and use them internally. For what we release to the public, unless we say openly that it was co-sponsored, they're all funded by IPSOS.
If this was funded by IPSOS, what was the thinking behind releasing it to the public then?
Well, the survey included quite a number of issues. This was the first section. We have two categories of questions or topics. We have questions that we ask or try to ask every time about the state of the economy, people at the household level. As I mentioned, what people consider to be the most serious problem at the locality and the national level. The other one on Kenya's direction, how people perceive that. We try to ask about crime and victims of crime. Most times we didn't in this survey, we didn't have enough room. And some other issues we tend to track, like devolution. We used to have a couple of questions. So that's one category. Now we have another category of questions which are more topical, that relate to what you people in the media are giving a lot of attention to. And what you track in the media is often, not always, but often the result of what important people in public life, private, but especially public sector, what they raise as important issues.
Tom, there's a threat to sue IPSOS. Have you received any court papers?
I wouldn't know. That's a management would deal with it.
Are you ready to defend yourselves in court, though?
Well, what's the alternative? I mean, if you get sued, you usually appear, don't you? I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know what the company would do. You have to ask them.
But you believe you have the answer to the question that may come up? Do you have a solid defense based on the research that you did? Can you uphold it?
Oh, yes. I mean, we can defend the research. We belong to the Market Society Research Association of Kenya, MSRA. We also, I mean, IPSOS is an international company with branches in some 80 countries or so on. And all of us are put under scrutiny much more often than you would think. And they do quality control checks and so on. So I'm sure, as I said earlier, nobody's perfect, but I think we definitely fall within the boundaries of what is the highest standards of survey research in terms of methodology. So I personally wouldn't have any worries, but it depends what grounds people would have for bringing any such legal complaint.